update. Reminder, this is our current budget that the board adopted an amendment back in April. So looking at using just a little under $2 million of our fund balance, but we know that's on paper and our trend is we end up favorably. But at the state level and what's going on with the state budget, the executive proposal was a $10,000 per pupil for the foundation allowance or $392 increase. Changing some stuff with retirement, continuing that mental health and school safety funding. The House proposal was a little bit more cryptic and was $10,025 per pupil. The Senate's proposal was $10,008 per pupil. And then out of the Detroit Chamber's policy conference that's up at Mackinac last week, Speaker Hall said, you know, the budget's going to be $12,000 per pupil. I'm like, wait, what? With no details given, of course, they probably have to eliminate some of, if not all, of those categoricals that show up. But stay tuned, because what they'll do now is they'll get together in a conference committee and work through that together, the three different executive, House, and Senate. We're not expecting to get it before the end of June, so I'm hearing it's going to, they say shortly afterwards, but we'll see how that works out. But just wanted to keep that on your radar. We'll land on something here for an estimate for what we'll propose at our special meeting on June 23rd. All right. I don't have a recommendation for the bond construction update because we're kind of in a little bit of a lull here. Pine Ridge work continues. Central High begins next week. We're excited about that, along with our roofing, mechanical, and paving projects that you have previously approved. We are running into potentially some snags on the mechanical side with some lead time and some of that equipment. So Corey has been working with GMB, who is helping to facilitate those projects. So we're keeping a close eye on that and trying to determine if that means that some of those projects will need to be delayed if the equipment is not here in time for it to get installed prior to the start of the school year. So we're on top of that. Playground work continues with that. Corey is doing a good job managing all of that, and we're excited about that work. Design work is continuing with Northern Hills Middle, Ada, and Meadowbrook. Just a few meetings there, getting closer to moving from design development to construction development, those three different phases. Remember, it's schematic development, design development, and construction development. When you get to construction development, it's really all set in terms of like what it's going to look like, because those are the detailed documents that are put together and are submitted to the state, and it was a part of the bid process. We started last week, we had a kickoff meeting at Northern High School for their design for the rest of the building, so we're excited about that. And then we're continuing to work through the Aquatic Center and starting some of those, starting the construction documents for that program. I think last month I showed a couple of different images where we pared some things down that we could to try to pull that budget overage down. So that's what's going on in the construction world. And the last thing under our discussion information section is just a reminder, at Monday we have a special meeting at 6 o'clock, right before the regular meeting that starts at 6:30. And that's to do a couple of required hearings. One of those hearings is related to the school breakfast program, and because of our free reduced lunch percentage, we're required to hold this hearing. We're under that 20% threshold. So we'll have a recommendation for where to offer our school breakfast program for next year. And then we will also have, the other hearing is related to student internet protection, or SIPA. So Susan will be presenting on that. So we've done this a number of years, but that starts at 6. And we are over at the Fine Arts Center. We're not in this, we'll be over there. So that takes us to our action items. We have our minutes from last month. And then as Scott briefly mentioned, we have a recommendation to replenish those consumables for our everyday math program that's for grades 1 through 5. That's from McGraw-Hill for an amount not to exceed $97,160, and that comes from our general fund. We also have a request for renewing our Power School. We use several products under the Power School umbrella. We use it for our finance, payroll, HR system. It's our student management system. We also use a product for a few years now. We started with for recruiting and hiring and employee records. It's called Talent Ed. And then we're also using it for professional learning, enrollment, and what's called e-collect, so gathering all that information related to professional learning. So the amount for the next fiscal year is $195,120, and that all comes out of our general fund.
Is this one that we just do annually? We just discuss annually and whatever they charge?
Yep.
It's not a contract or anything?
Yeah, correct. The next one is our annual internet usage for contract with AT&T. It's $34,000 for next fiscal year. It also comes from our general fund. We competitively bid this back in 2023.
This will be the last year.
Yep. Yes, exactly. It's all kind of straightforward for this meeting. The next one is also a renewal. It's the technology show today. This is related to our Incident IQ help desk and inventory system that we use. So this is from Incident IQ. The amount is $35,390. That's for the 25-26 year. We upgraded this system back in 22-23. The team just recently, as the spring they were working through over spring break, changed the interface for that for our employees to try to simplify that. There was a lot of offerings out there, and it was a little bit clunky if you were the end user and trying to figure out where do I click to put in a ticket saying I'm having an issue with X. So they've updated that. It's been a good system for us, and now that we've cleaned that up a bit, hopefully we'll have some good feedback from staff, but we continue to monitor that. The next renewal is related to our Google Workspace for Education. That's through CDW Education. It is for $41,400. This is for the second of a 3-year agreement. So we started that last year. It has some enhanced security features, storage features, some more instructional tools. We moved away from Zoom. People can still use that free version of it, but this has a little bit more robust of a Google Meet. So that's out there, and we receive priority technical support. So if there are any issues, we know we can reach out to Google directly and get that support. The next one is a recommendation to replace 400 iPads throughout the system for an amount not to exceed $129,600. This will come from our capital projects. And these devices are used both with our student services, our ancillary staff. They're going from building to building, use those as they work with students. And then we have a full cart for each elementary school. So we'll be using the REMC pricing for this purchase. The next one is the one that's probably a little bit different, that it doesn't fall in line with technology renewals, and that is a recommendation to purchase a new lift from Elite Field Services for an amount not to exceed $87,800. This would come from the general fund. We do have it budgeted. Corey does have a small capital projects or capital amount in his budget. But we've been looking at all the different projects that we have to do that require a lift, and even things of going out and trimming trees that are blocking lights, and think of that safety, or maybe a tree is dead, and so there are some things that we've been contracting out. Inside, replacing lights on tall ceilings, we have to contract that out. And so, you know, we're thinking that this is a lot more advantageous for us. This lift has the ability to go indoors and outdoors, so it can do both. It has non-marking tracks, so we can use it indoors and not worry about our gym. It's the right weight to go on a gym floor, so we'll not ruin the gym floors in terms of that. So, you know, Corey's been looking at that along with his team throughout the year, saying, how can we better help ourselves and to get some of the work done? So we're hoping that this will solve some of those challenges that we've had. So we would use the MyDeal pricing for this purchase where they've already bid that out for us, and Elite has that contract.
How many of our staff are trained on operating one of those?
All of our maintenance staff and ground staff.
Are already trained?
Yeah, they go through
Okay.
our, when they come in to inspect our lifts, which need to be inspected every year, they go through it's a rather short, but it's a instructional of, yep,
Okay.
good to go,
So that would be implemented fluidly?
Yes, because we have to get them inspected yearly anyway.
Okay.
So it's all a piece of that.
Cool.
And does this involve getting rid of one of our current lifts? Or is
Yes,
that on the back end?
the current lift that we have won't go on gym floors because it's too heavy, and it's got small tires instead of the track system. It doesn't go high enough to reach, it can't reach out over the pool. For example, this one, you'll be able to change pool lights, including the new aquatic center, make sure that this lift will meet the needs of getting to lights or whatever we might need to in the ceiling of that building as well. And then the old lift will go on public surplus, that's our auction site, that'll go up where we sell our old equipment. And that's a bidding thing, depending on what you get out of it, depends on the bids, so.
Yeah, okay.
So compared to our external contracts for maintenance and all that stuff, is this a cost savings in the long term?
It'll be a cost savings in the long term pretty quickly.
Okay.
So,
Fees for
I don't-
renting a lifter and staying.
Great, I mean, it sounds.
Yeah, we spend tens of thousands of dollars a year or something.
Yeah.
I'm sure doing that.
yep. And from a maintenance perspective, we have a lot of buildings that we can't reach to trim some trees that are plugging roof drains that have become maintenance problems, roof leaks, and it just exponentially, obviously we won't be able to get them all trimmed at once. Right now, we trim them off the buildings, but they need a better haircut.
Yeah.
Speaking about selling old devices, do we do the same thing with the old iPads? Do we turn those in and get a cash bounce back from that?
For all of the end user devices, we
Okay.
do that every year. We kind of, whenever Microsoft or Apple kind of stops their security updates or OS systems, then we go out, there's several R2 certified folks that we work with for buyback programs,
Great,
using Motor City most recently.
okay.
Does that help you?
Yeah, yeah.
I know that you have
Yep, easy
those
enough.
questions.
Yeah, exactly.
And we do the same thing for buses every year, right, when we replenish and go
Yep.
through
Yeah.
put it out for the auction site.
On the programs
Yeah.
that do this.
Yeah, we usually get pretty good money for our buses because we keep them in such great shape
Yep.
that people really, they look forward to it, I think, because we usually get a good deal.
Yeah.
Nice.
And we never project our purchase cost based on what we think we're gonna, that was part of my question, was just like, we expect to get $20,000 for the current lift somewhere in there, so that kind of takes our net, for this new one down by whatever. But that doesn't, we just
No.
take whatever we get.
We
at
just
the
take
back
what we
end.
get and we're like, great,
That's it.
it's helped offset it
Yes.
a little bit, whatever that amount might be.
Great.
And then the last action item we have is a resolution for the Western Michigan Health Insurance Pool. And this pool covers the medical insurance for all of our employee groups except for our teacher group. And so it's operated by the organizations that participate in it. And so we joined this back in 2006. And it requires boards of education to appoint trustees that represent the district. So we're recommending that my position is the trustee, and then the assistant superintendent from HR is the alternate trustee. That's how we've been operating since I've been here, but we just need to formalize this every so often. And I think probably the last time we did it, we used actual people's names. So the recommendation is to use positions, and then it kind of withstands the test of time. Those are all the action items that we have for you today. And I'll turn it over to Superintendent Kirby for an update.